Welcome back, everyone. We're really excited to have Devin Gonzalez today here on the show. Devin is a mindset-driven entrepreneur, CEO of Strive 11 Fitness, host of the Mindset Cafe podcast, and the best-selling author of The Money Muscle Mindset, the underground playbook for aspiring gym owners. With a deep passion for personal development, fitness, and building thriving communities, Devin has dedicated his life to empowering others to unlock their full potential. From his start as a teenage martial arts instructor to becoming a fitness industry leader and franchise visionary, Devin's journey is a testament to resilience, innovation, and the power of a winning mindset. Along the way, he's inspired countless individuals to break through mental barriers, achieving lasting results, and live with a purpose. Devin, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on. I've really been looking forward to this. I think you've got some really cool insights you'll be able to share with us from a unique perspective from the fitness side. And so we're going to jump into that in just a second. But before we come to your background, I'm going to drop some interesting questions for you to answer just to give us some flavor of kind of your personal preferences and things like that. So, Devin, if you could relive one moment of your life, what moment would you choose?
I would say the moment that my daughter was born.
Okay.
That's a good one.
That's fair.
You know?
That's awesome. Yeah. So you have one daughter?
I have one daughter. I do have another one. I don't know if it's a boy or girl yet, but we have one on the way.
Very nice. Awesome.
So you like to wait and be surprised?
I mean, it's really, really soon. So we have our first doctor appointment coming up. So you guys are getting the exclusive before even some family and stuff does.
Nice.
Very good. Okay. So we'll wait to release this until you tell us that the in-laws have already gotten the news. Good stuff. All right. If you could have any superpower for just 24 hours, what would that be and why?
Honestly, I think to fly. Like Superman is one of those cool things. I mean, if I got to have someone's powers, it'd be like Superman because you have pretty much a mix of everything. But to fly and just to be able to have that ability and have that freedom to be anywhere at any time would be kind of cool.
Yep. That's good. I like it. Are you a coffee or?
That's what I would choose.
You a coffee or tea drinker?
I'd rather have coffee than tea, but if I drink either, it's mainly for like the caffeine.
Sure. Yep. That tracks. All right. And last quick question here. What's one small thing, Devin, that always makes your day better?
Seeing someone realize that they can do more than they believed before.
Very good. Love it. All right. Well, let's get into helping people believe that they can do more than they thought. You've obviously got an amazing background. I'd love for you to give us kind of a snapshot of that. So how did you get started? Tell us, are you in California, correct?
Yes.
So were you born and raised there? Give us a quick run through of Devin Gonzalez, how he got started to right now, 2025, and run us through that.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in California. I will say that this is not my forever state. In the future, I do want to live other places and traveling for networking events and stuff. Like I see other states, I'm like, there's so much opportunity. But the snapshot is, I started off as a martial arts instructor at the age of 13, just because the opportunity was presented to me, and I took it up and learned a lot of the ropes, and then went to college, and the martial arts schedule didn't work out for me. So I switched over to a kind of a tangent that still I loved, which is fitness, became a personal trainer, worked for corporate gyms, worked for a private gym, and then finally, worked for myself and launched what became a 6-figure personal training company. During that time, I realized that what my next step would be to open a gym. And so while I'm trying to build what is now Strive 11 Fitness and the concept, I also helped launch a prep school for it's like a private prep school for middle school kids that were basketball specific. And so I built out the whole training department on that side. But then I
Wow.
opened up my gym, Strive 11 Fitness, and then last year we actually just launched the franchise model of it, and now we're franchising into Florida, to Texas, and some other places.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a good bit going on there. So I'm curious. This is just like maybe more of a personal interest for me, but when you get into something like fitness, particularly if you've come from a personal trainer background, that I'm assuming because I do calisthenics and things in the morning. I'm kind of like a self-taught, do my own thing. But I had a personal trainer back in the day for a hot minute, and I'm curious what was is going from personal training into actually like developing a gym and now a franchise. What were the key differentiators that you wanted to focus on that maybe is different from what you've seen a lot of in the industry? Because I'm assuming if it's not saturated, maybe you could say it's close. Like there's just a lot of people popping up all the time. What are you doing? What were you doing differently to kind of set yourself apart from what's already out there?
So, I mean, when I was a personal trainer, I actually had no social media presence, and a lot of people nowadays want to become a personal trainer so that they can become an online personal trainer and basically give cookie cutter templates of workouts and meal plans to all their clients and have hundreds of
Yeah.
clients and so forth. For me, all my stuff was in person, right? And so when someone came in, the way I got my new clients was either other people seeing me in the gym with them or them referring their friends. And I built a whole referral system out, which I later translated into the gym. But all my stuff was personal, right? And that's why I was able to grow a 6-figure business, was because I gave it that attention. And then with the gym, we opened up a boot camp style model. But the thing was, like, a lot of my clients when I was a personal trainer were going to these boot camps in between our sessions if they didn't want to follow like a game plan that I wrote out for them. And so they would go to these boot camps, and I heard so many of the same complaints from different models and companies. And I was like, I don't understand why someone hasn't created a solution that solves all these problems. So while I was still personal training, I was slowly developing, an idea, tested it out with some of my clients. COVID hit, then me and my now business partner launched it in the park for an entire year, testing it, trying it, adapting it. And now our boot camp model has, it's been open for going on 4 years, and we have no class times, right? So everyone's like, how is it a boot camp? Yeah, there's no class times. I was like, exactly. Right. And so that's our big differentiator, is that no class times effect. So it's like, you're not working out around our times. You're fitting in our workout around your schedule, your time. So it's built for busy people with busy schedules. We do have other areas and facets of the gym, from the body composition scans, the challenges, the, heart rate technology, all those kind of things. But the main differentiator is that no class times. And then when you do come to the boot camp, typically boot camps are tailored to a 21 to 45-year-old person. Our boot camp at each, so the 11, everyone tries to think there's a deeper meaning with the Strive 11. What does the 11 mean? It's just because there's 11 stations, right? And so each of those stations for the day's workout can be modified easier or harder, allowing us to broaden our demographic, from anywhere. We have clients that are 13 all the way upwards of 70, because the workout can be tailored to them.
That makes sense. Wow. That's cool. All right, I'm going to come back to something a little more particular on that in a minute. I want to go to your franchise, and how was that the goal to start franchising this gym idea? Was that something that was kind of always in the background, like, hey, I want to do this long term? Did it develop kind of more organically as you started to see the success with what you were doing personally? Walk me through that and how that came to be. You said you've got a business partner. What was the evolution there?
So, I mean, my whole thing is always trying to level up myself in terms of be successful at the path less traveled. And so before the gym was even opened, I knew I wanted to create a franchise and make it successful. At what stage of the business, I didn't have that like locked in stone or anything like that. But I knew that, there's a small percentage of trainers that actually open a gym, but majority of trainers say they want to open a gym. And then, so I was already part of that, small percentage. Then out of the ones that do open a gym, how many of them scale it, let alone how many of them franchise it and make it successful?
Sure.
Right. And so that was always like a goal in the back of my mind, but also realizing that my whole goal for even opening the gym was because my personal training, like, I was already overbooked. Like, I sold clients on a waiting list, meaning that they only bought sessions, and I would text my waiting list, hey, I have an opening today. Someone canceled at 3, someone canceled at 5. The first 2 people that filled it got it, right? And so like that wasn't always like, I didn't like doing that, but I only have a limited amount of hours in the day. So working 16-hour days and stuff, like I loved it, but again, I kind of hit a threshold, right? And not wanting to be an online trainer and stuff. So being able to open a gym and keep, changing people's lives and stuff was a huge thing. Now, could we do that faster with opening corporate locations or with allowing other people to come in on the opportunity and open it with us at, a faster speed?
Makes sense.
Can you go into a little detail on how you set up the franchise? Like, what was the process of that?
We actually hired a franchise advisor, and I did my research on hiring a franchise advisor because I didn't want someone that was doing things off theory. Like I could read a book and do it off theory too. Like I wanted someone that has done it before, has walked that path. And so our franchise advisor in the 80s and 90s, he grew it, which just so happened to be another fitness, like Weight Watchers kind of, style model. And he grew it to 400 locations, and then he sold it. And so it wasn't because of the whole fitness industry. It was because he already grew something. He walked that path, and I can now talk to someone and get advice from someone that's been on the journey themselves. So hiring him has definitely shortened our timeline to success. And that's one of the biggest things that I think that people need to realize is like when you do something that you don't know, whether it is, like you said, getting a trainer in the beginning, even though you don't use them now, it's like sometimes you just need that initial information so you can get started, right? So we got the advisor. He told me that typically it takes, anywhere from a year to 2 years for everything to get completed and, if you launch the franchise. And I was like, why is that? Is there legal limits or, what is that? And he said, no, that's just typically because people are working in their business and not working on building the infrastructure of the franchise so they can launch. I was like, okay, cool. So I told my business partner, I was like, look, if you need me, call me. I was like, I'm just gonna put my head down and grind. And he was like, let's do it. And so I basically had everything, done within a 6-month span, and did a soft launch to start to fill the, gaps and cracks and stuff of everything I had built. And then officially like launched it last year, and let it kind of run.
That's awesome.
Appreciate
so you're ready to get busy and make things happen. It's
exactly.
Good stuff. So being in fitness, can you kind of break down how that mentality of being fit or at least working towards that, how that contributes to your mental resiliency, why you might think that that's particularly important for entrepreneurs, right? Because you're both in fitness and an entrepreneur yourself. How have you seen that benefit you, and how would you espouse that message to other people that maybe are working all the time and building a business and they've neglected the fitness side?
So first off, fitness itself, it helps you look good, right? And at a very base level, right? If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you perform good. But more so diving into it, like when you work out, you actually are changing your hormone levels. You're increasing your endorphins, which are your basically happy hormones, and you're reducing your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, right? So, and this is something I even fell off when I was launching the franchise, is like I was put my head down so much that I was letting my own fitness kind of slip, and I'm a gym owner, right? And so like that was one of those things where I had to like realize, why was I so stressed, and why did a small problem feel like, such a huge boulder? And it was like, I'm not letting myself, get that outlet or get that decompression, or that cortisol reduce. And so that's from like a mental standpoint, why you should work out, even if you don't care about, a physical appearance. Right.
Okay.
So the other aspect is that it builds skills that are related directly to being an entrepreneur. It builds the skill of understanding delayed gratification. It builds the skill of dedication, and consistency, showing up on the days that you don't want to be there, that you have a bunch of other things to do, but you need to do this as well. So you still go regardless of how you feel. And then the other thing is showing up for yourself because at the end of the day, you have a ripple effect on your team, on your family. And if you're just pouring into everyone else from your cup is going to end up running out of water, right? You should be filling up your cup so much that the overfill is basically pouring into everyone else's cup.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
agree.
It's interesting. I resonate with what you're saying about how it affects, even if like just a physical appearance thing isn't maybe your top, tier priority, it still does affect how we function in other ways. I was just reading a small like LinkedIn blurb where this guy was giving some like quick tips on starting your day, and it wasn't all fitness related. It was random stuff. But one of the things he said was when you're exercising, you should set a number and count down your reps instead of count up to them, just because we're so like completion minded, right? And it's like, oh, hey, if I can hit this goal. And it was just like a funny little thing. And I was like, oh, it's cool. So like, I'm doing push-ups now. So instead of like, oh, I'm going to try to hit this number of push-ups, I'll start at a number and just work my way down to zero, because I get that much more like, oh, hey, I'm almost there. Like I can push this. So it's just funny how those little tiny things you see that you would think you wouldn't necessarily think of, but when you hear them or read them, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I think particularly as entrepreneurs, we are capable of withstanding an awful lot in our own lives, whether that's mentally or emotional. We have I think, much higher tolerance than general, people that go into work a 9 to 5. So we have a high tolerance for that. But a downside that I have seen personally, and I think you probably have witnessed too, is that at that same time, we could just let things go for way too long, because we're just like, hey, I'm used to dealing with crap all the time. So what's another day? And I haven't gone to the gym in 3 months. Like, what's the big deal? It's like another day, another week's not going to matter. So when you are talking to somebody who, maybe is realizing their need, I would like to be successful at this. I want to be a good entrepreneur. I'm doing well in business, but I also want to hone my game in this fitness area. What are some of the things you're going to come and help them with in terms of mental blocks to get out of where they've thought, how they've been acting, to kind of coming over and being a little more proactive in that department?
I mean, at the beginning, like, stage of it, I would tell someone, like, let's look at your day, like, not just, all the stuff that you put on your calendar, right? But within that time span, we always block off an hour or 45 minutes for a meeting, but did that meeting go the whole time, right? Because rarely do we go back to back to back to back to back, but our calendar looks like that, right? So starting to like time block, okay, well, what are you just putting in there as busy work, or what are meetings that could be condensed, or shortened? Because majority of the time when you have a meeting, especially like with my team, like, I don't have hour-long meetings with them all the time. Like, we'll do 15-minute ones, more frequently, and then once a month or once a week we'll have a bigger meeting, right? And it's like, you got to realize people's attention spans are already kind of short. So it's like, you having this long meeting every single day with your team, it's like, that's unnecessary. And there's studies that prove it. So it's like, where in your day, before you fill in all the meetings, what is a time that you could regularly work out? And then you can adapt it with each day, right? Because I mean, even my schedule, there's not a given time frame that I can always work out, but there's a time that I could work out until I start doing meetings, and then I don't delete the workout, I just move it. And if I can't move it, well, guess what? Treat your workout like another meeting. Tell that person that they need to come in the next day, or whatever the case may be. You have to, at the end of the day, you have to treat yourself better than you would treat your work, your entrepreneur, right? Your business. Because if you're treating yourself less than other people that you're giving to, at the end of the day, that is going to take a toll.
Sure. That makes sense. Yep. Yeah. So just kind of having good priorities there goes a long way.
No, yeah. And I mean, I would just say, what is your why? Like, why do you want to work out right now? What is working out going to do for you? Right.
Sure.
And then the flip side of that coin is, like, if you didn't start working out, what would that do to you? Right. Because there's a cost. Either the cost is you pay now, or you're going to pay later. Right. Which one do you want? Right. And if you're only thinking about working out to, be in business, well, think about this. When you see a good looking person come in, I'm not talking about facial stuff or, body. I'm talking about, like, when a guy walks in and they're, jacked, right? Or they're lean, and you can see definition. What do you immediately think? Right? You immediately gravitate towards those kind of people because you know that they have a level of self-respect, they have a level of self-discipline, they have a level of commitment to themselves. So if that person's committed to themselves, they're more likely to be committed to the things that they say they're going to do for you.
Yeah, that's good.
I think
That's
also
good.
as entrepreneurs, we tend to be very time conscious. And so, like, when you think about working out, you think, oh, I have to spend an hour. Is that like, but I could use that same hour to go do this over here. And I think that unless you've already created the habit and you've done you've pushed yourself enough to where you can actually you can see and can feel the result. But if you have never done that before, I feel like I know for me personally, I don't work out regularly and I don't have the habit in place. And like I know for me, an hour is a big time span, and and you almost like, how would you convince somebody like me, for example, or somebody else who likes the idea but sees it more as a luxury type thing than something that they need to do?
Well, I mean, luxury is something that you want but you don't need. You need to work out if you want longevity, right? Like, it's not like, if you're viewing it as a luxury, then the perspective of working out, it needs to be shifted first and foremost. But I will say that there is an old thought of you need to work out for an hour. That my workouts myself, like, rarely do I hit an hour, right? I usually hit 45 minutes because that's just how I work out. Like, I usually superset things just to kind of maximize time. I don't do super long breaks in between sets of things. But even with our gym model, Strive 11, like, it's not, since there's no class times, you don't have to come in and do a whole hour workout. You could do a 30-minute one today, 47 tomorrow, 75 the next day. So at the end of the day, something is better than nothing. So if you can get in and only can do 30-minute workouts to start, by all means, those 30 minutes at the end of the week, you've already worked out for 3.5 hours that entire week versus not working out at all.
Yeah.
Right. It's good.
That kind of goes back. I don't know if you've read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, but he kind of talks about that. He creates some like hypothetical scenarios where somebody, never works out. He gives a bunch of things. Someone eats donuts, 2 or 3 times a week, just a bunch of different things. But he's like, in 15 years, here's what that looks like. You've got somebody who just did a minimal amount, but did it regularly enough. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm not, competing to be strongman, and just all out, but it's just a little bit. It was just very consistent. And somebody just didn't do that little bit. And in 15 years, you wind up with very polar results. And I think for me, that's what I've tried to adopt is I may not, be maximizing in this area all the time, but at least want to develop a minimal sense of consistency because I know what that'll look like in a decade from now. And I know what a decade of not even doing that will look like. So yeah, I think it's just kind of honing in a little bit on that and having some perspective there. That's what helped me a lot. Devin, I'd love to chat a little bit about, you're obviously you're married, you've got a daughter, and just announced another kiddo on the way. So obviously, growing family. What has that looked like for you? Eric and I are both married. We both have multiple kids, so that we personally understand a lot of the struggles and changes and some of that. But speak to us a little bit about your experience in starting and raising a family in the midst of your growing business and how that's played a role for good, but also like what were some of the challenges that you maybe didn't see coming with that, and what would your advice be to people who are maybe just not a bachelor that's able to do whatever whenever and not have to worry about any of these other things, but those other considerations in family, how has that played out for you?
Yeah, definitely. So when we found out my wife was pregnant with our daughter, we found out she was pregnant the same week I signed the lease for the gym, right?
Oh, nice.
And so when she was so when she was born, like, the gym had only been open for 6 months, so we were still in the infancy stage of the business as well. And so this is something, I mean, they don't tell you, and there's no really advice for it out there. So it's like I was trying to I was working my full day at work because, the business needed me, getting home, and my wife would be home with our daughter. And then I would take the quote unquote night shift. And it was like after 3 days of that in a row, I was standing in my gym and I was staring at like the wall, and my partner was like, dude, are you good? I was like, honestly, I can't even see straight right now. Like everything was like shaking. He was like, dude, go in the back and like take a nap. Like he's like, and I was like, no, I'm good. But then I had to go home to my wife and like let her know, like, honestly, like this is not gonna be a longevity thing. I can't even
Yeah.
drive back home. And then she was like, why didn't you tell me? And so like that communication, being a parent, is huge, especially with your significant other. Is like, it doesn't always need to be 50-50, right? Some days it's 60-40, some days it's 30-70. And so it's like realizing that you are a team, just like your business. Now, what I will say is that as an entrepreneur, you tend to, put all your time and your effort into the business. You have to make sure that you're dedicating some time for your family, because at the end of the day, you're building your business for them, but you don't want to lose them in the process, right? So you can be busy, but let them in on that. Like, let them know if you're going through, a season that's going to be a little more busy. Like, let them know why, let them know, how long and roughly, and let them know what's going on. Otherwise, it feels like there's two parts of you. There's, the business side of you, that's one life. And then there's you when you're at home, that's another life. And if you're letting work bleed into when you're at home, then there is really no home life, right? So one of the things I learned with my wife is like, I let her, like, I'll bring a small problem, because you don't want to give them every single problem and stress them out, because majority of the time it's not like that they can do something to solve it for you. So it's, you just venting to vent, but letting them in on a small problem, and then letting them give you advice or with their thoughts. So now you can be like, okay, cool, thanks. Like, I'm going to try that. And now they get to feel a part of the business. So now they feel like they're a part of that side of your life, and they feel like they're building the business with you, instead of you building the business and then just coming home to them whenever you're free.
That's good. Wow. That's good stuff. And it resonates with me for sure, because I think my wife and I have had this exact conversation where she was like, look, it's fine. I understand you're busy. I understand what's going on, but yeah, you're not communicating. You're not telling me about it at all. Right. And again, I think that's just another downside, right? We can get kind of tunnel vision, right? It's just like, oh, I've got blinders on. And as soon as I'm done with this thing, hopefully it's soon, but it might be 2 years from now. Who knows? Everything's going to be fine, and we'll all go on vacations and everything, but until then, like, I can't talk to you. It's like, that's not ideal. We kind of want to have a little bit more balance in that. So again, yeah, I think that's very, very helpful advice, just to, at least be inclusive. Like, they're your family, for Christ's sake. Like, they can come aboard. They can hear a little bit of what's going on. You're not trading government secrets or anything. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So talk us through quickly here. I want to know a little bit more about the Mindset Cafe, which is your podcast, kind of what got you into starting the podcast, and also the Money Muscle Mindset book. Those are obviously, pretty important ways that people can start sharing their wisdom with other people. And this is why we're having you on our show right now, because you obviously have a lot of experience here. So walk us through the process of getting a book, up, published, and kind of who your target audience for that was. Is that the same for your podcast? You're looking to do something a little bit broader reach with that. Give us a background there.
Yeah. So the book was a form of give back for me, in terms of, I wanted to write a book because, a lot of people, or there's not a lot of people that write a book, in general, right? There's a lot of books out there, but in terms of population, like, so I knew that was another path, that's least traveled. But at the same time, I didn't know what I was going to write. And then after launching the gym and growing it and everything, I knew I could at least help that one trainer that wanted to open a gym that didn't know how, right? So Money Muscle Mindset is a book I wish I would have had when I was opening the gym, right? So the first and the last chapter are about mindset, because the analogy between that, or the reason for that, is because everything begins and ends with your mind. And that's why I wanted it to be the first and last chapter. But everything in between that, it's, how do you find a location? How do you create a client avatar? How do you negotiate a deal? How do you create pricing strategies? All those different things, are the chapters, basically 2 through 10. There's 11 chapters, because Strive 11. But
Nice.
but the book itself has QR codes in it, and I could have created those as lead magnets and so forth, but I wanted it just to be a straight give. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to a landing page for that given chapter. You'll see a video, I'll talk about the chapter a little more in depth, and then there's downloadable templates, that again, you don't need to put any information for, you just get the templates, but that all correlate to whatever was in that chapter to help you along your path. And then for the Mindset Cafe, originally it was actually called the Strive Tribe podcast. And since it was so linked to the business, it was hard to get guests on in the fitness industry. And since it was so niched down to fitness, it was hard to get guests on. And then also, like, I talk about fitness all day long, and that's only one aspect of what I think success, builds a successful life or personal development for someone. So my business partner kind of wanted out of that because he didn't really like the limelight of the podcast. So I transitioned it to the Mindset Cafe. And then, a few months after me running it and stuff, I was able to convince him to come back on at least for one of the episodes a week where we do a live episode and so forth. Awesome. But that's like our give back, instead of someone reading a blog, because how many blogs do you really read? It was like, we know people listen and stuff when they're driving. It's like, this is a way for us to answer all those questions, cover those topics, and then bring people on so that, they can share their story so that other people can learn. Because honestly, that's how I learned majority of the stuff I know, was listening to other people that were successful, their story, and molding it and adapting it to fit what I was trying to face.
Wow. It's good stuff. Okay. So you're just really oriented towards, hey, I've done this before. I know what some of the pitfalls are. I know what didn't work. Here's a play guide. If you read this, you're a little bit further ahead because you don't have to fall through the same cracks that I did. So that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a really proactive way of giving back. So I admire that. It's good stuff.
Appreciate it.
So as we wind down here, Devin, I'd love if you can share maybe a favorite tool or even an app that is like a piece of technology that you really enjoy that's meant a lot for you in your day-to-day. Could be something really silly, could be kind of more business related, just something that you go to a lot that helps make your day easier, something you would recommend to others.
I will say, there's so many different ones, but in terms of fitting your workout in terms of, planning it out and not letting stress overwhelm you, I will say that, we use Trello for basically managing projects, managing tasks and stuff, but you can set it up so that it's like you're creating your to-do list for today. What is a priority? I can create one for some of my other, team, and like, this is what you need to do. So now I'm not having to tell them everything every single day. It's like, there's already notes in it. This is what you got to accomplish today and so forth. But Trello allows you really focus on the tasks that will move you forward in terms of, doing what do I need to get done tomorrow and planning it out the day ahead, plan it out, do those things, and you'll continue to see growth versus just filling your day in with busy work and feeling like you're stagnant.
That's good. Should we be on the lookout for a Strive 11 app at some point? Are we gonna have access to a global app where we can get into workout regimes and things like that? Is that something on the horizon?
We do have an app right now, but it's for our members, and we're slowly building it out to be a little more extensive than that. But we do have a meal plan app, so when our members come in, they get access to it, and we basically can track their macros, but then we can give them personalized meal plans to them as well.
That's awesome. Okay.
That's cool.
Cool. Well, hey, when you are ready to launch, open a franchise here in Lexington, just give me a call because I can get you hooked up, and I'll be an early member there. So,
awesome.
Yeah, you want to get out to horse and bourbon country? We'll get you hooked up, and that'd be great to have a Strive 11 out here. So,
sounds like a plan.
Good stuff. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, Devin, thanks so much for joining us. It has been a great conversation. I appreciate your insights, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to find just a lot of tangible, helpful things that they can do to make themselves better in a lot of different ways. And appreciate you sharing your experience and giving back in that way. And look forward to catching up with you down the road and hopefully breaking ground in Strive 11 here in Lexington someday.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers.